What's up, Rams fans? What's up, LA? What's up, Orange County? What's up, Southland? Good morning, Saturday morning, LAFB Live. I am Ryan Dyrud, riding solo this morning. My usual co-host for LAFB Live is Stephen Hagland, and he is at Chargers camp. Been there all week. Today I am not. Have other stuff got to do. More work for this here. Got to do some stuff on the back end, some CEO and admin work, you know how the whole gamut works. We have other guys out in the field. So Steven's down at Rams camp, and I believe we'll have someone at Steven's at Chargers camp right now, excuse me. I believe we will have someone at Rams camp later today for Pads Day, which is pretty exciting. Finally see the guys with the pads on. Fingers crossed, no injuries, knock on wood. Let's keep it clean, safe, fun, healthy, constructive. But yeah, thanks for joining me on this Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Didn't do a Rams recap last night, so I'm going to do it this morning. Figured we usually do LAFB Live anyway Saturday morning, so let's just go ahead and do it then. We did a full Chargers recap, Steven and I, of day 3 yesterday afternoon. So if you are watching this right now and you wanted to see the Chargers recap, we actually did that yesterday, so you can just look for that video, whether you're on YouTube or on Twitter. It is posted on both of those because this one is going to be about Rams day 2 and day 3. Day 3, not a lot happened. It was an install day, like a walkthrough day. A lot of fans there yesterday. A lot of fans. And basically we're watching just walkthroughs. You know, anytime Stafford would even just like toss the ball, it was like applause because, oh, we actually saw something. Because usually it was literally, they hike it. Players run their routes. Stafford would just kind of arm throw it without actually releasing the football. So, yeah, not a lot to really talk about yesterday. So really we'll get more into day 2. So if you guys have questions about anything, please let me know. I can at least try to shed some light on what I saw and what I think is to come. But I'll kind of go down some of my biggest thoughts and takeaways from camp. I thought it was a good day. Both these camps, Chargers and Rams, are very efficient. Get them done in about hour 15, hour 30 minutes. Get a lot of work done. They do their individual drills, get stretched, get healthy. Then they get into, 7-on-7s usually. Then they do a little team session. Then they do some special teams. Then back to team. So it's real just boom, 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 quick, quick, quick. Always on the move. And I know that's how Sean McVay likes to do it, is never having his guys stand around, which anyone that played football, pretty much any football coach wants that. You don't want guys standing around. So let's get into a little bit of things that I saw. First off, I'm kind of going to go through some tweets I did. So if you're following me on Twitter, some of this will be repetitive, but I'll expand on it more. Austin Corbett is the unheralded center 1 right now, which is to be expected. That's what Sean McVay said in his opening training camp presser. So that's what we all expected to happen anyway. Seems to be, the center quarterback exchange looks great. A lot of shotgun yesterday, no muffed snaps, which I know it sounds silly to say, but hey, that's a big move when the guy's moving from guard to center. That quarterback center exchange is extremely important and one that needs to get done very quickly. So they obviously worked on that in the offseason. So sounds like a very minute thing, but it's a detail that, hey, if you're not on the same page come game day, that's a fumble. That's a turnover. It could be in the red zone. Who knows? So I can report the center quarterback exchange looks very good. Let me turn my, realize I left my AC on there. So probably a little hum in the background. But yeah, so happy to see that. So yeah, Corbett's definitely the guy. Today is Pads Day, so maybe we'll actually see some blocking. Like I said, I will not be there personally, but I will let you know who to follow. Obviously, the great beat writers, Jordan Rodriguez, Lindsey Terry, among others, are there that you can always follow. But if you want someone from the LAFB network, I'll let you know if we have anyone there today, but we will definitely be back next week. I will be back down there next week again as well to keep up on all the latest. I'm just pumped for football, guys. I don't know how you guys feel. Pumped for football. So in the kicking game, what I noticed, in punt anyway, you had a combination of Raymond Calais, Jeremiah Hadel, Otis Anderson, and JJ Koski were the ones that were receiving punts. I know on day 3, I think Kupp, to the chagrin of probably many fans, was back shagging a couple punts. I don't think that's the plan. It's probably more of him wanting to just, stay comfortable in case that's a need. I think one of those original 4 guys, though, is going to be your punt returner. I would be very surprised if we see Cup back there again, unless injuries happen, or sometimes roster cuts. You can't. Sometimes you can't keep a guy just for punt return or kick return. If you have other positions where it's deep and you're like, okay, we want 5 linebackers. Like if we cut any of these guys, they're not making it through waivers. And if we have to cut one of them just to keep a punt returner, some coach will be like, you know what? Okay, Cup, just fair catch it every time. Just go back there and fair catch it. But we need someone to field punts, but we don't want to dedicate a roster spot just for that. So unless one of these 4 guys can make an impact elsewhere, maybe that's what they're thinking, why they're having cut back their shags and punts to at least just stay comfortable, stay fluent, be able to track the ball still. I love Jeremiah Hadel. He was the 3rd best return guy in all of college football last year out of Texas State. We talked about him, me and Coach, on our last podcast. We went through some undrafted free agents for the Rams that we thought had the best shot to make the team, and he was one of them that I had that I think can make an impact on special teams. It's such a deep receiver group, so I don't know if he really see the field receiver. So like I just said earlier, it might be tough to keep a guy specifically just for return game. But if he's that good and he can get you yards and he's not going to fumble, that's what I'd look out for. So, but all those 4 guys have a good shot. Otis Anderson, UCF, Raymond Calais, obviously they picked up last year after he was cut by the Buccaneers and is in that running back room. So we will keep you posted on that. But I would say, in my opinion, the front man right now is Jeremiah Hadel, just because of what I know what he did at college. But, we're 3 days into camp. So hard to really tell. But that's, I think, at Chargers camp, I've talked very highly on Austin Prohl. I think he has a clear edge, whereas in Rams camp, I think it's pretty, we're just getting started in that realm. Let me answer this question here. What's up, my man? How you doing, brother? Good. Thanks for jumping in. How's Ernest Jones moving? Is he making plays from IQ, hidden athleticism, or both? Ernest Jones looks good, man. He's not running at all with the ones yet, from what I've seen. Again, if you haven't been to Rams camp, and I'm hoping to be behind the fence for a few days with credentials, but at this point, I've just been there, as a fan, but still trying to do stuff as best I can. But if you haven't been to Rams camp, it is a massive operation. A lot of fans there. They kind of have you kind of far away back in the stands. They don't let you really up at the fence line. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but sometimes it is hard to really see everything just because of the angles, how far they are in the field. But from what I've seen, Ernest Jones, rocking number 50, has not been with the ones, has been running with the 2s. But from everything I see, everything looks good. So at this point, when you're not wearing pads, it's not how you evaluate linebackers, just making sure they're in the right spot. Hitting the holes, hitting where the running back is going if they're doing running plays. Are they dropping back in coverage? And so I think from that perspective, he looks fine. He looks fluid. He's moving good. He's been in on every play as a middle linebacker should be. So I think the adjustment from college to pro is going well and smoothly. I know a lot of us talked about preseason, or not even preseason, like before season, that we kind of expected Jones and Traven Howard were kind of our 2 guys to look at as our starters as linebackers. And we could still get to that point. But right now, excuse me. But right now, I think Jones is clearly behind. We've seen still at the middle linebacker starting. It's definitely Micah Kaiser, Troy Reeder, and Kenny Young. Those are your 3-man rotation right now, just like it was last year. Those were the incumbents from last year, so you would expect that at the beginning of camp. And then we'll see if Ernest Jones can overtake that. Obviously, Traven Howard, rocking a new number in the 30s. So it's kind of funny seeing that out there. But I think he'll eventually overtake that too. But, he's still, coming off injury, getting his legs back, learning this new defense with the rest of the guys. So right now, that middle linebacking core is definitely a Micah Kaiser, Troy Reeder, Kenny Young rotation. But we'll see those other guys get mixed in. And especially today is a really good indicator. And so it'll be fun to see what happens on, first padded practice, how much hitting they'll even do. Knowing McVay and knowing how he runs things, I don't think they'll do much full contact, but at least they'll be in the pad. So they'll be, making contact, if anything. So at least we can see, okay, he was there. He was at the point of attack. Would have made the tackle had it been, live reps. So, but yeah, to answer your question, Jones, he's moving good. I think he looks fine. All the rookies so far that I've seen are, it's an adjustment level. Just, but they're progressing well. Let me clear my throat here. What's up, Anchor? How you doing, man? Good seeing you guys all check in on this Saturday morning. Jake Funk, speaking of rookies, I love watching Jake run, man. He's a real twitchy running back. I tweeted out there's a term fluid and twitchy that are used a lot when it comes to football and how players run. Jake Funk is definitely twitchy. So if you don't know what those mean, fluidity is just a very smooth, like you don't even really see them change direction, right? It's just a very smooth. Their cuts are just with purpose and smooth. Twitchy is kind of real choppy. Not one or the other is bad or wrong. Twitchy can look kind of, I guess, more frantic, if you will. Like picture Peyton Manning in the pocket. Everyone called him Happy Feet. So twitchies look like when you're in the hole, when Jake Fuck's in the hole, there's always a range of motion moving, whether it's his shoulders, his arms, his feet are pedaling, whereas some running backs in the hole are just very methodical, fluid with their hips. Jake Funk's very twitchy, and that's not a bad thing as long as he can hone it in. Sometimes he's a little too. Sometimes he might use a little too much energy when he doesn't need to. Like, he has an open hole and he's moving too much. Like but he hits the hole good with purpose. Has good explosion from what I can see. So obviously he looks fully healthy. I know he was healthy last year, but there's the concern of the ACLs, the 2 ACLs throughout his collegiate career, but looks good so far. Fan favorite, obviously. So yeah, a lot of excitement there, and he'll definitely have a role with Cam Akers being out, and the fact the Rams are pretty dedicated to the running back room they have. Daryl Henderson looks great so far. Like he looks like last year, obviously we couldn't be at camp, but trying to get updates and stuff like that. And it was definitely a Cam Akers, Daryl Henderson kind of split backfield. Even though Cam Akers was a rookie, Daryl Henderson was in year 2. You can tell right now, as it should be, and as McVay said, but you can tell Daryl Henderson is like the unquestioned number 1 guy. And he just has that swagger. Like you can tell when guys have like, okay, I'm the guy. Everyone else is behind me. I'm not watching my back. I'm not fighting for reps. Yeah, guys are going to get some reps. They're not going to run Daryl Henderson 25 times a game. There's other guys going to get reps. But you can just tell that swagger that, okay, it's my backfield now. I'm the guy. It looks good. He's caught the ball in the backfield really well, which is something I really wanted to see because when he gets the ball in his hands in space, that's what made him so great at Memphis. That slasher type 8.9 yards per carry that he had at Memphis. And obviously a pass isn't a per carry, but still just get the guy the ball in space and let him burn people. So they've been doing a lot of work with him out of the backfield. He's actually caught a lot of crosser routes over the middle coming out of the backfield. We call these routes that they come out of the backfield and they go like a zig like that. Well, I kind of didn't do it my camera well, but like that. So they come out of the backfield at an angle and they cut over the middle of the field. So you kind of take that middle linebacker's eyes over with you and then you cut on the inside of him. And then usually if you're pulling the safeties to the edges, because if you have, deep routes or if you have corner routes or the outside corners, then you get your running back in space right there in the middle with no one and he can just burn it. So I think that's a play we'll see often. They've done it a couple times in practice. And if you can get Hendo in space, behind the backers and yeah, exactly. Anchor like a tight end angle kind of thing. So exciting. So I think Daryl Henderson looks good. We'll see. The big thing with him too is health. We got to get him he's the unquestioned guy, but I don't want to see him getting 30 touches a game right off the bat. I think he should be that 15 to 20 touches and then work up to that as his body gets really into, because again, the way the Rams run training camp and preseason and practice, they don't hit each other. It's all mental. Most of the stuff they do in practice is all mental stuff. And so they're not really getting live hits until week 1 of the season. And so you just don't want to, push guys too fast, too quick into the season, and then we'll go into that. So LA original Broncos. What are you looking at? You see the hat in the background or the helmet in the background? Probably. Sorry. If you're new to the show, I am from Denver originally, but I've been here 13 years. So I'm LA, guys. I mean, been covering the Rams now for a while. But yeah, that's funny. Sorry. I still got to have, there's still some deep childhood fanhood, but coverage wise, I'm all in on the Rams, and I am a big fan of the Rams now too, after covering them for a while. Speaking of tight ends, haven't seen Jacob Harris yet. Don't fully know. It's like a muscle strain or something he's kind of working out. So he's been there at practice doing some stuff on the side, but hasn't done any teamwork yet or anything like that. But the biggest thing I've noticed and the biggest concern, and I hate I never want to dog on players ever. Ever. You know, what they've done to get to the level they're at is amazing, and they're all phenomenal athletes, and they all have talent. LA original. Well, yeah. Well, I cover the Chargers too if you haven't watched, so you know, we do good there. And yeah, okay, that's what it was. Thank you, Anchor. So yeah, Jacob Harris did have surgery a few weeks ago, according to Jordan Rodriguez. So coming back from that, but it is from what I talked to her yesterday that, you know, recovering good, and he should be back out there hopefully soon. But where was it? Oh yeah, so Bryson Hopkins, he's a big guy that, you know, drafted last year. There's a lot of hype about, a lot of excitement, and then we haven't obviously didn't see him much last year, and then this year now with the hype around Jacob Harris, and he's still not there. I mean, he was running on day 2. He was with the 3s and the 4s. So they were doing, I guess it wouldn't be called individual work, but essentially it was quarterbacks with receivers and tight ends, just running routes against air. And he was with, you know, Bryce Perkins and Duck Hodges, Devlin Hodges over there with the 3 and 4 tight ends and 3 and 4 receivers. So I don't know if it's a mental thing, but even when you see them running their individuals. So, you know, the beginning of the practices, usually you're doing footwork drills, you're getting loose, you're doing some catching drills. That fluidity I talked about, that's a big thing. And it's more important with route runners because you want to be fluid with your motion, fluid with your steps, fluid with your cuts. He just doesn't look it. Looks real choppy. When he's trying to make cuts, looks clunky almost, which is not what we heard coming out of college. He was, you know, tremendous coming out of college, and there was so much excitement about his athleticism. And Johnny Munt looks more fluid in his route running, which is not what he is on the team for. He's an inline blocker. But Johnny Munt, with Harris being hurt, Munt's been your number 2 tight end, and he's looked good. I mean, he's made some good plays in team drills. He looks good catching the ball, so I think we'll see maybe him more involved in that realm. With the departure of Gerald Everett and with the maturation development of Jacob Harris, not throwing him into the fire right off the bat. So I think we'll see Johnny Munt a lot more. But yeah, it is a bummer. And it's not over yet. A lot of camp to go. But at this point, Hopkins, I think, he's got a big hill to climb to make this squad because there's a lot of good players making this team. And if you're going to keep 4 tight ends, which is not likely, he's got to make a big push to what he does. Big push. Because right now, Harris is a lock, you know, rookie with excitement. Obviously, Higbee's your starter. And Munt, I think, is a lock too. What he does blocking and what we've seen him running with the 2s and, you know, the ability to improve his catching ability. So those 3 are locks. And I'm not saying it's out of the question to keep 4 tight ends. A lot of teams do it. But your 4 tight end needs to be a guy that's shown some improvement from year 1 to year 2. And I don't see it yet. Again, 2 days in till into camp, or 3 days into camp, excuse me. So a lot can change. Yeah, great point, my man. Thank you for reminding me. Kendall Bland has been making plays. He's been running with the 3s and 4s also. So not up there yet with the 1s and 2s, but he's been looking good. He looks fresher. I said this on the Chargers recap yesterday. We were talking about Mike Williams. And I want to be clear here because I'm not inside these guys' heads. I haven't interviewed them. So you never want to accuse or assume a player's effort level ever. It's not fair to do. So it's hard to even say, but you can sometimes see by just individual work, the effort level. And sometimes it just looks like his effort isn't fully there. Now I could be wrong on that 100%. And I'm sure he would say it's there. So I don't want to fully accuse of that, but you can just tell when certain guys are running routes, and it could just be their style, the way they run, but it just doesn't fully look like the full effort is there. In at least in the individual footwork drills and stuff like that. Whereas a guy like Kendall Bland, who's, you know, fighting his ass off to make this team, just the effort looks higher. I mean, let me think of a better word than effort, because I think they're all giving obviously 100% effort, but the intention, the urgency, let's go with that. The urgency to make the team seems a little more prevalent with a guy like Kendall Bland than it does with Bryson Hopkins, who maybe is thinking, well, I was a 4th round pick last year, I should be safe. Not saying he's thinking that way, but, you know, that's just what it looks like in those individual drills. So keep an eye, or I guess I'll keep an eye for you on Bryson Hopkins, and we'll see, you know, how that progresses throughout camp if we do see improvement. So sticking with the offense, Matt Stafford, guys, looks great. The long ball just looks effortless. It's going to be so fun to watch this year after, you know, after what we saw last year with the lack of explosive plays. Obviously, the loss of Brandon Cooks, I think, was bigger than a lot of people anticipated from 2019 to 2020. So adding Deshaun Jackson, adding Tutu Atwell, who I cannot wait to see him at camp. Obviously, he's been on the COVID protocol. So once he's at camp, that's one I cannot wait to just watch, just to see how they use him, what the plan is there. But Djax has looked great. The connection, the deep ball connection. But I think what's exciting too about what we've seen with Djax so far, 3 days in, is he was brought in obviously as a burner to stretch the defense, make more opportunities for Coop and Woods and Van Jefferson, and then be the guy that they can come back and burn him deep if they need a big play late in the game or early in the game to set the tone. But they're using him also in other ways. He's caught balls over the middle. He's done end around jet sweeps, which I think we all expected as well, but we've seen it quite a bit throughout camp and in their installs and stuff like that. So he's going to be an exciting player as long as he's healthy. And even if it's, he's on the field 15, 20 plays a game, he might be involved in 8 to 9 of those. And it's not just, a 3 deep ball attempts per game. So I think he'll be pretty involved in this offense, with the deep ball being his pedigree. But there's other ways that he can help this offense out, and we're seeing it already in camp. It's going to be exciting. And then once Tutu's back next week, it's going to be even more exciting seeing those two work together, because this receiving core is just, it's lights out. I mean, we all know what Woods and Kupp can do, and they look great, as always. The connection between them and Stafford always looks on point. I talked about, I think, last week about one of the toughest things of what you want to see in camp is getting your timing down. That's the most important thing between quarterback and receivers. You can have all the talent in the world. If you don't have the timing down, it's not going to work. Well, the timing already looks down, which is pretty incredible considering we're 3 days in. So the timing looks great. So I think that's all good. I mean, the offense is just coming together. It's really just, coming together. You can just see McVay out there. And I've been at camp every year we've been allowed since the Rams have been back in LA. And McVay is always excited, always pumped. But there's something about him this year. You can just tell. Cannon Fire, what's up, baby? Little enemy fire here. Buccaneers jumping in. Happy Saturday, man. Hope you're doing well. But you can just see Sean McVay is he's ecstatic. Absolutely ecstatic with what he has with his quarterback, with his offense. The opportunity finally for his offense to not be the one holding this team back the last 2 years. Even last year, the offense was definitely improved compared to 2019, but it still held this team back in games, and the defense was like the focal point, and that bugged McVay. I mean, he's the head coach. The whole team, he wants to be great, and he was ecstatic that Brandon Staley and the defense were the number 1 defense in the NFL, but it irked him that his offense was ranked like 20th and was the afterthought of this Rams team. Obviously, he would want the defense and offense to both be ranked 1 in a perfect world, but at the forefront, he wants his offense to be clicking on all cylinders. 30 points a game. 30 points a game. Yeah, I agree, Anchor. He just looks more relaxed. I think last year too, there was so many questions always about Goff, the quarterback play, the turnovers, that by the end, it was just bubbling up and boiling up. And he's always such a great interview. He's always so polite and kind to reporters, and calls everyone by names, which I've always respected the hell out of him for compared to other coaches. And Brandon Staley is the same way now with the Chargers. But you could tell by the end, he was just, all right, let's get through this. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. And get out of here. Whereas now it's back to I'm just happy. Football's back. My team's looking great. We're ready to go win the ship. So Stafford's looking great. Let's look at, here was probably my biggest takeaway from day 2. Again, I'm not talking a ton about day 3 just because it was install day. There really wasn't a ton to talk about. My biggest takeaway from day 2 was the starting edge with the ones all day, not even rotation. He was the starting edge next to Leonard Floyd, was Justin Hollins, Oregon product that the Rams got after the Broncos released him last year, who I thought was a great pickup. The Broncos loved him, but they just were too deep at edge, and he was the odd man out because they were just so deep at edge. And the Rams picked him up, and I'm like, okay, that's a solid pickup after being a solid draft pick out of Oregon. And it's gonna pay off, but it did surprise me that right now he's running with the ones over Obo Okoronkwo, Terrell Lewis. I know Terrell is still kind of nursing maybe some injury, but as far as I know, he's running with the 2s, so he's out there. So hats off to Justin Hollins. He looks bigger, looks strong, fast. So I think it's a testament to him, what the work he's put in. But yeah, For those that didn't know or didn't see my tweets, Justin Hollins, as of now, is your starting edge outside of Leonard Floyd. And then the rest of your defense line, Aaron Donald, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Ashawn Robinson. So a pretty formidable line up front. But that was definitely a surprise. Because I don't think a lot of us, I mentioned Justin, I tried to quite often mention Justin Hollins, like, hey, look out for this guy. He'll be a rotational piece and can definitely learn in this system and be a solid edge rusher. But I didn't think day 2 in camp, he would be with the ones. I thought it was Obo's job or Terrell Lewis's job. So, but I think that's a good sign. That is a good sign because of his size, speed, and skill. And then if you can use Obo and Terrell as depth pieces like they've been, but not force Terrell to be a starter with his injury history, but just have him come in with fresh legs, on NASCAR packages or just, on third down specialists or something like that, it's a good thing. So this is great news, in my opinion, that Hollins has made that leap. And King, I saw the same reports here that Raheem Morris likes the longer edges. And Justin Hollins is a bit longer. Terrell Lewis and Obo are big guys, but yeah, Hollins is definitely a bit longer, like Leonard Floyd. I mean, Leonard Floyd is he's got to be the longest edge guy in the league. You see him out there, he looks like a walking stick. Obviously, the dude is absolutely jacked and, probably 8% body fat, but he just looks like he's 6'4", just slender, lean. Hollins is a bit thicker, but he's also really long. So, yes, those reports definitely are saying that about Raheem Morrison, so that does make sense. So, yeah, Groot. There you go. That's a good nickname if no one's calling him that. Leonard Floyd Groot. Yeah. So, yeah, Kaiser and I'm going through this here, guys. Kaiser and Young have been the majority ones in the inside with Troy Reader rotating, like I said earlier. Those are your three. And then I've also seen Burgess take a couple looks at nickel. So, you're starting safeties. Your ones through 3 days of camp have been Fuller and Rapp, have been your two safeties. From what I could tell, Rapp playing strong, Fuller playing free, but very interchangeable in this defense. Burgess has rotated in as well. We've seen Burgess in nickel. Burgess has been starting with a 2. So they're going to use Burgess even if he's not. I think at the end of the day, it'll be him and Fuller as the 2 main safeties. But at the same, they're just going to use all 3. They love Rapp. They love Fuller. They love Burgess. They're all 3 great. They all 3 do a little different things. But yeah, as of now, Fuller and Rapp are your starting deep safeties with Burgess in a rotation and also playing some nickel, which I love that he's playing nickel. So rounding out your kind of outside, David Long's been your starting outside guy along with Darius Williams and Jalen Ramsey. So they've all kind of wrote the nickel guy or the slot guy. We've seen, like I said, Burgess in there. We've seen Ramsey slide in with Williams and David Long on the outside. We've seen Rochelle get some reps. I think Rochelle has looked really solid so far for a mid-round rookie out of a small college. Broke up a really good deep route intended for Van Jesperson on the outside. I talked about when he was first drafted, excuse me, remember if it was with Sosa, Cremenges of Locked On Rams or someone else, but one of his biggest attributes coming out of college was his athleticism and the ability to, even if he made the wrong read, being so athletic to backtrack on it or correct it and still make the play. So maybe he jumped a route too early. It was a double move, but he was so athletic he could go back and still make the play. And the concern was, well, playing against lesser competition like he did in college, can that translate to the NFL, or is that going to mean he's going to get burned a lot? Well, we saw it against Van Jefferson on one play when he made up ground real quick and broke up a great pass intended for Van on an out route to the sideline, and he's able to break it up. So Rochelle's, I think, looking pretty good so far. We've seen Nick Scott get in there rotationally well as safety. So I think they really like all 4 of their safeties, Nick Scott being the 4th guy. And he's obviously, I think, more on the team for his special teams prowess, but we saw him play safety last year when injuries arose, and I think we'll see him get in there too this year. So good things to see. Yeah, that's kind of the biggest things that I really saw. Again, day 3, not a lot. The defensive line, there's been questions about Bobby Brown and Ernest Jones and Ernest Brown. Those defensive rookies, Chris Garrett. They're all, running with the 2s and 3s, getting their legs under them, learning the system. Yeah, Anchor, I think you got in here just a little late. I talked about center at the beginning, but yeah, it's definitely Austin Corbett's job, like 100% right now. Center exchange to quarterback looks good. And then Brian Allen's with the twos. So it's Brian Allen with John Walford and then Coleman Shelton after that. So that can obviously change, but that's how it's looking right now. But yeah, your rookie defenders all looking good. I'd say the most getting the rotation right now and with the ones has been Rochelle. I think that's just Raheem Morris's system with DBs, try to use all his DBs situationally, and loves Rochelle's size, speed, and length. So I think he'll get in there. But we'll see. We'll see Bobby Brown get in the mix too. Obviously, they just feel really good about who they have starting with Ashawn and Donald, and then Sebastian Joseph in the middle. So Greg Gaines has been rotating in there with the twos at the center, or at the nose, I should say. But all's look good, guys. I'm excited about this Rams team. Really excited. A lot of things to be pumped about as we get into day 4 today, padded practice. So this is going to be one that should have a lot of, I don't want to say answers, because again, we're 4 days in. I mean, we got like 4 weeks of this. But we'll see some more things, and we'll see how aggressive McVay and the coaching staff gets, if they do hitting or if it's more of still what we've seen. They just happen to have shells on. So I will keep you posted from my post from what I can give you. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in here to LAFB Live, talking some Rams. We will be back, next week, every Saturday. We'll do some live stuff all through the week next week, live from training camp like we did this week. It was a wild week for me. Long stretch, three like 16-hour days, going from 6 a.m. leaving here, Chargers camp, record, write, edit, Rams camp, drive home in traffic, record, write, edit. I love it. It's the grind. I thank you all for joining me on this ride as we continue to build this network up and have a great, great season. So keep tuning in. We appreciate it. I will have the LA Football Podcast dropping here in just a couple hours. We'll just have some more takeaways, more of kind of what we talked about here. But for those of you who maybe didn't hear the whole thing, we'll have it on the podcast app here in just a little bit. So appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments and some of you, with your own insight and letting me know certain things. Have a great, great Saturday. If you're going to camp, have an absolute blast. Like I said, I'll be there again next week, so would love to connect with any of you and meet you in person. So enjoy the day.